What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff Iafredi. Jeff, what's good, brother? It's good to see you as always. Happy mother training camp week, my guy.
Feels good. Just take a nice deep breath. We're finally here, boys. All the off-season coverage. Now we get to do in-season coverage for a full season as me and Sean, a duo Woodward Pistons, we're going into it. I'm excited, man. A lot of stuff coming up that people aren't ready for.
Dude, it's crazy to think about. I even talked about this with Jeff over the weekend. I was like, dude, we started talking and doing From Half Court together when the Pistons' relevancy in their games was at its lowest. And now we're going to be heading into a season where Coach Casey himself said this is the most competitive team he's had since he's been here.
That was big.
That just shows, like, man, just imagine what we're going to do with that. But also a guy that's set to do numbers and ready to make a statement is our new Pistons beat reporter and beat writer for Woodward Pistons and Woodward Sports, Brandon Dent, a.k.a. my boy KoolAids,
hey,
my brother. What's going on,
thank
man?
You, brother. Thank you. Hey, I appreciate the welcome. It's always nice when I'm able to be on From Half Court with the bros, Jeff Iafredi, and Mr. Sean Murphy. I appreciate it.
Oh, my brother, you're always welcome over here.
Ours,
you
bro.
know that, man. It's crazy. It's you know it's weird to think about because people might forget a time when before Woodward Pistons Table Talk was a thing. Used to be on this channel every week. You know, doing
brother.
Yeah, man. It was, and it's even still funny to go back and look at the very first episode we did together. But now, man, the three of us, we're heading into a full season of covering the Pistons together. And I'm super excited about that. But KoolAid, you're going to be specifically the beat reporter and the beat writer for Woodward Pistons and Woodward Sports. What is that going to entail? What is that going to look like for your role? And what are you most excited for this season? And with that ability to cover the team in person?
Yeah, the most important thing, to echo something that Mike Curtis said, and something that Rod really drilled into me the first year that I was covering the Pistons, is listen to what the team has to say. And when you do, it just breathes so much life into the season, even before there's a basketball hitting the floor, even before training camp officially starts. You start to be able to kind of put the puzzle pieces together. I forget who used that analogy, but they stated, you know what, man, it's like you can really start to put the puzzle pieces together based on what these guys are saying they're working on and such. And so just covering the team from a standpoint of what they're saying, putting, obviously disseminating the news that the team and Pistons PR is publishing and such, any roster news, any, cap news, anything, any organizational news, like the Bob Lanier stuff, making sure that we can have that aptly and properly covered, and not just from a standpoint of, kind of regurgitating the news, but also potentially getting into the deep dive of it all, producing some shows as well as writing like you did today with the Bob Lanier piece.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, I'm going to be the associate editor. So with that, like KoolAid, you're kind of, you're kind of the quarterback. I'm kind of the running back. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be plays where it's your turn to go in and, you're under center, you're calling the plays. You're going to be the one, under the center, but there's going to be times where you're going to put the ball in my hands and I'm going to have to go make something happen.
Bro,
you know what I mean?
So, hey, Sean, do you know how to use a truck stick?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I be hitting that truck stick. I'm spamming A in this, man. I'm just like stiff arming these mother.
Hey, bro, let's go.
No,
and
man,
that's how it's going. We got Jeff, obviously working on some shows. We got him locking down Uncle T for some
he's the
content,
face of it all.
great
He's the
content.
beauty of it all. Mr. Handsome Jeff Iafredi over
everything.
there.
I just stand, smile and wave, boys.
Smile, boys, smile away.
Let's go. Hey, Jeff, you mind throwing a few locks over to me, bro? I got my young Kobe on.
I'll say you're looking like Phillips out here. I love it.
Man, you forget that young Kobe had hair.
You're right. Middle-aged Kobe, right? So there we go. Middle of the career.
Hey, you still be giving dudes buckets though.
Yeah.
Let's work. Let's work. Let's definitely do that.
Oh my gosh. But no, but
Man,
all
I
that,
love you guys.
all that, yeah, love you too, man. But all that to say, like, we're the three of us in particular are going to be doing a lot together this season as far as covering the team. A lot of content we're going to be making together, potentially some shows that we're going to be making together. So you're going to want to be in tune in that. You're going to be wanting to follow Detroit KoolAid for a lot of those updates and reports on the Pistons, but also you're going to want to be following Woodward Pistons as well, because From Half Court is part of the Woodward Pistons family. We are a network that covers the Pistons. We are the center of Pistons content and coverage. We have the best Pistons content in the state. I would argue we have the best Pistons content on YouTube. So if you'd like that, be sure you subscribe over to Woodward Pistons on YouTube, follow them on Twitter, but also subscribe to From Half Court and follow us on Twitter as well at FH Court Pod, because that's where you're going to find the best Pistons and NBA coverage you can find on the internet. I'm just telling you now. But with that, guys, it is, we talked about it. It is media day as of when we're recording. It is training camp week. It is finally time to talk some mother basketball. And with that, I think I would be remiss if we didn't start with what everyone wants to hear. And that is Colin Sexton debuted at Utah Jazz practice. No. We got to talk the Detroit Pistons. We got to talk about their media day and our takeaways. Now, KoolAid, Jeff,
Yes,
Jeff, I know you were kind of busy during all that. I know you were kind of tuning in when you could, but I know you kind of also had to do some clips for, Armani and Edwards. How dare those guys have a production that you have to help with? The nerve. Gosh, being a team player, what a prick. My goodness. But, yeah, but in all seriousness, like KoolAid, like you and I, like we were, we were listening intently. And like you said, listen. And I think you and I did a lot of listening today. And if there's any takeaway, and we just did a stream right before this too, giving a little bit of our thoughts. If there's anything we took away, it's that we feel pretty freaking vindicated, because a lot of what they were touching on was what we felt like and what we were discussing all summer throughout our platforms. Yeah. What were some of the things that stood out to you, and what were some of the key themes that you took away from this day and from these press conferences?
Yeah, the most important thing that I heard, other than the aspect of family that they're subscribing to, is the goal that this family is working towards, and that's to compete every single night. And we were all trying to figure out where the Pistons were at in their stage of the rebuild all summer. And we kept going back to Cade Cunningham post All-Star break, this team's record. We talked about Killian's best stretch was post All-Star break. Hamidou Diallo's best stretch was post All-Star break. Obviously, Marvin Bagley, when he entered this team and such, and what they looked like as it became more of a complete team. And they were less athletic last year, less shooters last year. And, a player that we didn't really talk about a lot today in Bojan, he wasn't here last year, So seeing that this team has not just a chip on his shoulder to kind of win, but to march towards the playoffs, at least that's what the players are saying. To put it in context, Troy and Coach Casey, they're saying that this team is ready to compete, not necessarily be in the contending stages, but to be in the competing stages. They likened it unto Memphis Grizzlies, which was another kind of comparison that we made in the offseason. Trying to compare what rebuild did they look most like. Obviously, the OKC rebuild from old is going to be one, but modern-wise, Memphis Grizzlies continue to be one. I know, Sean, that was one you were very, very high on as it relates to especially the Ja Morant comparison with Jayden Ivy. But they obviously are centering it around what Cade Cunningham is going to be and then the supporting cast, and really talking about the stage that they were in. This team shouldn't be an easy out any night. And the players, Jayden Ivy, he's saying, look, we're trying to make the playoffs. And we banty, should they be a playing team? Should we look at this team as a 6 seed? Are we downplaying them? Is Cade really this this star player, and should he elevate a team that we think has made some strides forward? There a lot of the different things and a lot of different questions we had, especially with some of the players like Isaiah Stewart and Isaiah Livers and Killian Hayes. These guys all spoke to some of the points that we raised during the summer. So it was an awesome time to kind of finally hear them speak, listen to them, and get to work, man. The articles were pretty cool to write today.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, I like I said, I know you're a little busy, but I know you still had an ear to what they were saying. I know you were still, looking at a lot of the quotes and tuned in to, to the session. What were some of your takeaways? What were some of the themes that, that stuck with you? And what direction do you think this team's taken this year?
I think on top of what KoolAids said, it's the self-awareness for me. I think that's the biggest thing that stood out, because we talked about it even in our most recent video, one of our most recent videos, about where they feel like they are as a team. And the one thing we discussed was competitive basketball. And the fact that Troy brought that up, listen, we're not there yet, and Dwayne as well, we're not there yet, but we're trending in that direction and understanding there's a process to these things. Like we brought up the Grizzlies won 34 games in their first season with Taylor Jenkins, and then made the play-in. And then the following year, they won 50-plus games. Not saying the Pistons are going to have that same trajectory, but in a given sense, it's really what you want to mimic. You want to take those steps. So this year, I've said it, and listening and reading on about all the quotes that you tweeted out, KoolAid, just it kind of confirmed what I've already thought. And it was, listen, this team's going to come out. They're going to be hard to play against. The win-loss record is going to be better. They're going to improve. But I'll take, like I said, max 35 wins. I think that's kind of the area you're expecting this team to be, and I think this year they can do that. So the self-awareness is probably the one thing that stood out to me, and it just makes me respect Troy, because a guy who has a vision like he does, like those are really the best general managers. Like if you can have a vision and take it step by step. A lot of general managers act season to season. Like they just want to make their team better any given way possible and don't really have a direction or path. Troy sees that. And everyone always like this past offseason, sign this. Like there's a time and a place for this. And Troy sees that. So I can respect that about him. But really, Sean, it's the self-awareness, man. And I'm glad that Troy's at the helm, because all the fans are pretty much abiding and listening to every word this man says because of the stuff he's been saying. It's been coming true. So I'm excited for this season. But just the fact that they all have the same belief as the fans, it's a cherry on top, man.
Yeah. One more point on that. I think it was very interesting that Troy, even before the season started, was able to trade a guy who was signed here in Kelly Olynyk to be a starter for another guy who was a starter, whether Bojan starts or not. That blows my mind. We were just talking about this on the table, talking on our shows. Like, I remember when Rod first said it to us, my ears were like, wait, what? You think two people are going to get traded at minimum? He's like, yeah, it could be more. And that was before all of this stuff. So it's just, a lot of the different hunches, they keep getting checked off.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is that not only did Troy Weaver, speak to his confidence in this group, but he also gave action to it too. I mean, before this press conference even went live, it was announced that the team picked up the options of, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes, and even Cade Cunningham for year 3, which, I mean, listen, the Cade one there is the least shocking one of them all, right? Isaiah Stewart, I think we all had a feeling he was going to be on this team next year. Sadiq Bey, that one is pretty safe too. We talked about all summer how it felt like this was a make or break year for Killian Hayes, but they committed to him for another year. And today, one thing that stuck out to me in particular was Killian talking about his confidence in his shot, his confidence in knowing what he needed to do this summer, how much he just went and played basketball. And a lot of people made a big deal of, oh, well, he just needed to be in the United States. Well, he went to he was in the US a lot. He was in France a lot. But when he went to France, he was with the national team. He was getting run. He was playing basketball. But also, he looked like, we talk about how Cade looked like he gained muscle this summer. It looked like Killian gained even more muscle too. And if he's feeling as confident as he says he is about his jump shot, about his game, about being vocal on the defensive end, to me, Killian was one of the guys that my stock in him obviously media day, you take things with a grain of salt because that's the day that everyone feels the most confident. It is quite literally the first day of school, and it's when they're handing you the syllabus. They quite literally, tomorrow is when, like training camp is when it really begins, right?
Right.
But if we truly have a confident Killian Hayes, then that is a team that you can really see rising up more in the rankings than people might expect. I think this is a team that a lot of people like are looking at. I know ESPN, I was watching their Eastern Conference preview, and they were like one of the teams like, we're just not talking about the Pistons, because I think a lot of people are just expecting them to kind of carry over from last year. But KoolAid, Jeff, I think the three of us all are kind of having the sense that the Pistons are, and it's that this team, we don't know where they're going to end up, but they're going to be playing competitive basketball to the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's the danger in just dismissing this team, because those competitive teams are the ones that shock you. I'm not stating the Pistons are going to make the playoffs, but it's those scrappy, hard-fighting teams that have just enough three-point shooting that can sneak into the playoffs. It's how we've seen teams do it year after year. When the Cavs first did it, it's how they did that. They snuck in through good defense, hard play, good guard play, like dynamic guard play, and they snuck in. They snuck up the rankings. So I think when you look at what this team is saying, Killian Hayes, I'm excited and feeling confident, and what their focus is within winning. All of them continue to state defense on the defensive side of the ball. Killian Hayes stated on his role this season that firstly, being that defensive voice, that leader on defense. I don't know. I'm not saying this team is going to make the playoffs, but would you be shocked if this team found a way to make it found itself in the 6th seed at some point late in the season?
No, I wouldn't. And I think that says a lot, because youth, there's no fear with those guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's the number one thing. Like, they don't know no better. And it's almost like it's a good thing now they have to learn how to win. And the best thing I took from it too with Killian Hayes speaking is him talking about his role. Because we talk about, Dwayne says this is the best team he's had. This is the best team Killian, you could argue, has been a part of. And now he doesn't have to be the guy. Like, if you get what I'm like, for example, with Cade, Jayden Ivy, before it was Killian's our playmaker. He's our guy. And the expectations were there, and they're still there. But to an extent, it's like, well, we have Cade, we have Jayden Ivy. Like, whatever we get out of Killian is just a cherry on top at this point.
He's one of the playmakers now.
He is, exactly. So instead of being the guy, he's a beneficiary of what's around him. I think he's going to, have a lot of fun playing with these guys. Like, we talk about the bench he has now, even coming off the bench with Marvin Bagley, Alec Burks. Like, he has guys, veterans, but also that you have some lob threats. You're going to have Livers possibly, like the spacing he's going to have. He's set up to have a good season. I don't know about, the numbers. They're going to have to really talk about that. But the confidence is what I wanted out of Killian. And I love when he says things like this. Now he has to go out and show it, because it's like when we're watching all these, the summer film of him working, and then you watch Summer League and you're like, I don't know what Killian I'm going to get, but nonetheless, I think just the confidence speaks of what's around him too. The team being built around him, everyone kind of understanding their role, because that's the number one thing you have to kind of wait for too. Like now Sadiq in his second year, Killian in his second year last year, like kind of figuring out the pecking order. Now Killian's third year, like it's probably clearer as day than it was last year or the previous year. So listen, 3 years in, about to be with Dwayne Casey, I think he's poised to, at least this is the most comfortable he should be. And I don't think there's really no excuse for Killian not to go out and at least be productive. I think, if we see a Killian like we have the past 2 seasons and he can't stay healthy, then we have our question, because I think he's going to be set up this season to have success individually. So I'm excited for him.
Well, and guys, doesn't it say a lot that a guy that for all intents and purposes is having a more strict back role, in the sense that he's going to be coming off the bench for all intents and purposes, he's in a system with 4 point guards now. If you include Corey Joseph, Cade Cunningham, Jayden Ivy, there's 4 guards. There's a reason why Saban Lee was moved this offseason. Like, part of it was not just to go get a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, but also we just had so many guys in that room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
I
think
it was their strongest unit on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But with that, with Killian, not only is he going, I don't really care if I'm a starter or if I'm off the bench, but in addition, he's taking initiative to be a leader on the team. We've talked about how Killian has been timid and how he needs to be more aggressive. But now he's starting to show that initiative even off the court. How he's talking about during the press conference, how, Killian's a guy where it's like, I literally don't even know if I heard his voice last year. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it's like with Killian.
Right.
Now he's talking about how he wants to be a vocal leader on the defensive end. Who's expecting him to say that today? Show of hands. I wasn't.
It shocked me. As soon as I heard it, I was like, whoa. Tweet that out. Oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, that's got to go in some article, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. I didn't expect him. Like, because we all associate, Killian's best skill set as being playmaking and defense. But I don't ever really hear him say, punctuatedly, I'm trying to go out there, because we said it, bro. If you're a defensive player, go out there and live in the opponent's jersey, period. Yeah, and when they go back to the bench, bro, they should be dragging you with them. Like, that's what I want to see out of Killian, because how much more offense does he serve himself if he's a great defender?
Right.
So it was awesome to hear that this is what he's making the priority over 3-point shooting, over trying to become a better ball handler, over trying to get to the rim more. The first priority for him is go out there and honestly find a way to be the second coming of Lindsey Hunter at the very freaking least. Now, Lindsey can shoot that thing, though. So I'm hoping secondarily that's something that Killian's working on too.
And that is the other thing, is Killian did say he did work a lot on his shot this summer as well, and that he is feeling confident in where his shot's at there. So I'm really excited about that. But I think, guys, another piece that we have to talk about, and this is a name that, everyone's waiting for. It's like, when are we going to talk about Cade? When are we going to talk about Cade? Like, that's like, probably the, forefront of everyone's mind whenever you think about the Pistons, right? We talked about this on the stream, a bit ago, KoolAid.
Yes, sir.
Not only how physically Cade looks unrecognizable just from his size and his bulk and where he's at in that area, but demeanor wise, if you look at where Cade was at this time last year versus where he's at now, it's a whole other planet. I mean, Cade was, when Cade was, coming into the league, on media day, he was just excited. He was enthusiastic. He was, he was just happy to be there, pumped for what was coming. It was, he had lofty goals of the playoffs, obviously, but, it was more so about finding his way in the league, and focusing on getting better every day. Cade Cunningham looked like he was like going into year 5 today, the way that he was talking and the way that he looked locked in. And it was specifically how he talked about how, getting his body right, getting his mind right, getting into that place. And he seems to have such a fundamental understanding of that. And he just turned 21 years old. So KoolAid, Jeff, I don't know about you guys, but that was just something that stuck out to me very, very profoundly, was just Cade's maturity, both this offseason, both physically and mentally too. He took it to another level.
One of the most important times in a young player's career is from their rookie year to their sophomore year. Like, seeing the difference, because Caden we saw it in his rookie year, like you said, Sean, a little more timid. He still was that leader, but more so just focused on getting better every single day. The stuff that you say as a rookie. Now it's like, hey, I'm him. Like, I'm getting that praise.
I'm Himmy Neutron.
I'm Himmy Neutron. Getting that praise from other players like Kevin Durant, DeMar DeRozan, like, it's different when you have confidence in yourself, but when you hear it from not only local media, because we drown Cade in it all the time. We love that man. But on top of that, getting that national appreciation, I think he's starting to realize, like, you know what? Like, I knew I should have been the number 1 pick, but like, I know how hard I've worked, even in the offseason now, adding 15 pounds of muscle. It's like, dude, for a guy that comes into the league and is so far advanced mentally, like, usually it's the opposite. Usually guys are coming in and they have to, their basketball IQ has to get better, but physically they're there. Everything's put together. They're built. It's the opposite. Cade came in with a basketball IQ of a 5-year vet, but he had to get there physically. Like, and I feel like that's a that's probably where you prefer to be for Cade. Like, add muscle. He already has everything else. You want to see him clean up a couple parts of his game, but I love those words from Cade, man. It shows, because where this team is going to go in the future is dependent on that man and being a leader. Because it's different
100.
when Killian's saying something or your best player is saying something. It's completely different. As much as I love Killian, Isaiah Livers, I think those guys are going to be good little leaders for the team. But overall, like, the buck stops with Cade Cunningham. And listen, I love that. He's a franchise player.
Yeah, and KoolAid, even Dwayne Casey, he literally said today when he first saw Cade come into the practice facility, he didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
He was, like when your coach is like, "Oh, hey, Cade," like
He really been working, not just saying it, bro.
And
exactly.
He got the beer too.
And again, mind you, Dwayne Casey's not just a guy that's like just gonna say that about anybody. This is a guy who's been doing player development for years and who has worked with some of the best players in the league. So for him to have that type of statement.
Yeah, Casey seemed pleased with all of the players, with the condition of all of his players. It didn't seem like there was one that he didn't gush about today. And, with Cade, he said, to back up your point, Jeff and Sean, having all that knowledge from last year helps a lot and will help me be free and more comfortable going into the season this year. He talked about his rookie season being one that now he knows how to prepare his body and his mind for it. He didn't know how to prepare last year. And that's something we've talked about with other players and such. But he had the right group around him to probably be in his ear, starting with, Supremo player developer, Coach Casey. But I think the funniest quote that we got from Cade Cunningham, let me find it here. He says he loves Detroit music and can't even say it's slept on, right? And so to continue on in the music thing, he says, "I'm not a rapper. I'm a Detroit Pistons basketball player." Cade Cunningham. We will leave some people nameless. I will personally, but I'm sure, and I tweeted this earlier, that's things some fans wish to certain former franchise piece.
God, I wish Andre would have lived by that, man. Just focus on basketball. Stop with your terrible club rap. Like your dog auto-tune. Like you don't gotta dance around it, KoolAid. I'll say it for you. Drumming. That boy's up to nothing when he's on the microphone. Yikes.
I don't think I've ever heard one of Andre Drummond's tracks.
Good.
I've never even, I told myself don't listen to it.
That is a Pandora's box that you are best to keep closed because you don't want ear damage. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another day. We love Andre for what he done on the court.
Respect.
But holy
with the music, I'm with you on that one, man. I'm with you all the way. Because you're right, man. You at the very least, if you don't know what you're doing, like if you're not as high IQ as Cade, which makes him the reason why you take Cade number one, at least, bro, don't be in the studio. Find yourself in a gym. Find yourself next to another big man. Find yourself in a gym with a stretch big. What did we see all summer with our guys? We got pictures of our guys with some of the top guys in the NBA. That's what we've seen. I don't really remember seeing that with Drummond unless he was running in a pro league or like a pro-am league or something. I don't really remember seeing too many pictures of Drummond with the other stars of the league, like we see with Cade, like we see with Ivy, like we see with some of our young guys, like we see even Killian.
Well, even like, when did you hear of like those guys hanging out back in the day?
I was just gonna say that too. I'm like, when these guys are out partying, it seems like they're together, like they're together hanging out, as opposed to individual.
Yeah, this team seems a lot more connected and a lot more like a brotherhood and family. The previous team, it seemed like they were trying to create that culture, but it was a bunch of different parts and pieces that they just brought in.
Right.
These young guys, you got Jayden Ivy saying, "Yo, this is wild to me because I was just last year looking at Cade Cunningham getting drafted, saying, yo, it would be crazy to play with him, and now I'm literally here playing with him. This is awesome. Like I never thought I would get the opportunity," type stuff like that. These guys are excited to play with each other. Cade even said they asked him about being a leader, and he was talking about, whoa. I naturally like to talk and speak up, but we got a lot of guys on this team that can do a lot of good things. Just hear the way the squad talks, man. Like, I don't care if I'm a starter or off the bench. And then to hear oh my gosh, and I'm gonna find the quote later, but one of the players state, no, this is something that Troy is pushing from, Troy and Coach Casey are pushing this family atmosphere, this togetherness.
I was just gonna say, it comes from the top. It's always top to bottom, man. I mean, look across the NBA.
Well, and speaking of Jayden Ivy, another thing that was pretty prominent today, and listen, anything can change, anything can happen, but if you were ever wondering Jayden Ivy's commitment to Detroit, wonder no more, because one of the things he said during the press conference was, quote, "I want to be a Piston for life." This guy is locked into Detroit. This is where he wants to be. And the other thing that stuck out to me as well during the press conference, I know a lot of people are comparing Jayden Ivy to Russell Westbrook. And listen, I know a lot of people wince when they hear that comparison, right? Like even Jeff shook his head right there, right? There's good things about being compared to Russ. But here's the difference.
I'm with you.
Here's the difference. And Jeff, you and I have talked about this. Kool-Aid, you and I have talked about this. The difference between Russ and between Russ and Jayden Ivy is that Russ is going to be him until the day that he dies. He's not getting advice from nobody because he's Russ. He's going to do his thing the way that he's going to do it.
That's what got him there.
Former MVP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Jayden Ivy is the son of a coach, is a gym rat. Cade, Corey Joseph, everyone talked about how he's always asking questions. He's always looking to get better. He's always looking for feedback. He's always in the gym. And this is a guy that he even talked about himself. Yeah, I know my shot's got to get better. He knows that he has to improve as a rookie and there's things that he's going to have to come in and learn. Obviously he has his sights set high. I know there's a lot of people that have varied, opinions. I know, Steve Burke, who we had on last week, he's not the biggest Ivy fan, there are people out there that are not the biggest Ivy fans. But I think one thing that you can say about Jayden Ivy, he's hungry to learn. He's hungry to get better, and he's hungry to be coached. And that's something that's when people bring up the difference, that's where it is. And this is a guy that he's bought into being a Piston for life, and he's bought in to playing that role alongside Cade.
Yep.
He's bought all the way in.
Yep. You know who he reminds me of mentally? Just his mentality? Sadiq Bey. And he has that tutelage with Jay Wright and Villanova. And we all know how they came out and they were saying it. KC said it. Oh, no, we wanted his preparedness. We knew what type of player we were going to get with Sadiq Bey. And that's kind of what the vibes that I get with Jayden Ivy, being the son of a coach and being in the Big Ten. And having pretty good coaches, both in high school and in college, is a guy that's going to come in and play the right way, play hard, and realistically know where to be, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to get his actual quote, but
yeah. Jeff, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I want to say too with Jayden Ivy, that quote he said, "I want to be Piston for life." It's crazy because if it was anybody else other than Jayden Ivy, you when you first hear that, you're like, okay, well, a lot of guys do say that. I want to be X for life, and then things happen down the line. But I really do believe Jayden Ivy's different because of his ties to Detroit. And like you said, the Russell Westbrook comparison, the reason why I shook my head is not because I hate Russell Westbrook as a player, whatever it is, because I trust me, when the picture came out with Jayden Ivy and Russell Westbrook, I loved it. But the reason why I don't see it is because I hate these comparisons, not just Jayden Ivy, but in general, saying, we do it for the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown can be the next blank.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think Amon-Ra and Jayden Ivy have the right to be the next Jayden Ivy. I think he's going to be very different
themselves.
Absolutely. Because he's different. I think in one thing he has going for him is he's walking into a team that already is having that culture instilled. It's already there. Rather than Russ in Oklahoma, where there's not really a culture, and Russ now takes that initiative, and Kevin Durant and him didn't really have the best communication. I think Cade and Jayden are going to have great communication. They're going to have good chemistry. Now, there's going to be ups and downs to begin the season because they're going to have to learn how to play together. But it's the most important thing in how this is going to work is those two have to hold each other accountable. They've
been talking from day one, Jeff, and that's the key.
That's the key. I mean, if you want this thing to work, and listen, you can talk about backcourts, or you can talk about duos in the league that haven't worked out. A lot of the time, it was because of miscommunication. Like, and this is an extreme example, but even Kobe and Shaq, things that the reason why they didn't work out, now reflecting back on it, when Kobe was alive, RIP Kobe, like one thing they talked about was it was that lack of communication, understanding what each other's needs and wants are, rather than having two guys with humongous egos. Like Cade and Jayden are really the opposite, and they're guys that want to just put their head down and work. And if you're a Pistons fan, I mean, how can you not be excited?
Yeah, I mean, Cade's the guy that wants to help his teammates get better, and Jayden Ivey's the guy that wants to do whatever it takes to be the best teammate that he can be. And so I think with that, like a lot of people talk about, how is that going to fit? Like how, like a lot of people throw out all the time. It's one of my, it's like it's like one of those things like everyone just, it's like a crutch that people go to. There's only one ball. It's like, well, yeah, like no shit, there's only one ball. That's how this game works. But like the reality of it is that there had like, it's again, we talk about, Isaiah Thomas, the secret of winning, the secret to winning basketball is that it has nothing to do with basketball. Is that it has to do with what teammates, it's like it's about the guys that buy into the team, that buy into what it takes to win. And Jayden Ivey is one of those guys. Like people also like they get hung up on like the John Morant comparison because they're like, no, he's not John Morant, because it's like John Morant is literally like our current day Allen Iverson. Like he's crazy, right? Yeah. But like even if he's not like fully John Morant, like you said, like he can go out and be himself. Like I know the names that are thrown out for him are crazy, like Dwayne Wade, John Morant. Like there's big expectations with this kid. Yeah. But there's a reason why, man. It's not just because of the physical intangibles. It's because of what's up here too.
And real quick before you go, Brandon, I want to mention this point too. I think the benefit, and you brought up John and just made a light bulb go off in my head. The difference between, and I keep bringing this up, but Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and maybe John Morant and what they're doing with Memphis is there's no culture with Oklahoma City. Like it was a new franchise. Kevin Durant made the switch from Seattle to Oklahoma City. The Grizzlies with that young core, like in Oklahoma had to overcome that and eventually make an NBA Finals and win games. But with the Grizzlies, they have the grit and grind. They have those previous teams that they understand. Like the culture is already instilled here. We just got to get this thing and built it, back up from the ground. Like the thing with Jayden and Cade, there's already history here with this franchise, and I think that helps them as well because it's like, guys, we know the key to success. We just got to go mimic it. And a lot of the success we've had in Detroit was working hard, putting your head down, being blue collar. I mean, all of the phrases.
Yeah, but they talked about that too.
But that's the, I guess, greatest benefit of this franchise. And both those guys, as humble as they are, because like the Grizzlies, there's a history there. And it's easier to get back up because it's the same message that gets preached from the top to the bottom. So that's just another benefit, man.
From Half Court is brought to you by Manscaped. When we talk about post players, there is few better players in the restricted area than our friends over at Manscaped. With great products such as the Lawnmower 4.0 with skin-safe technology, the Weed Whacker, their deodorants, lotions, and more, Manscaped is unrivaled when it comes to the men's hygiene game, serving over 8 million balls worldwide. That's a lot of testicles, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're finding yourself in need of Manscaped products, be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout because that can get you 20% off plus free shipping. Our friends at Manscaped sent us these products, and I can tell you that they are absolutely for real. I have been absolutely satisfied and in love with their entire product line, from boxers, t-shirts, the Lawnmower 4.0 to the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer. You can really not go wrong. Be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you again to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this video. I mean, you even have guys like Marvin Bagley saying these are the best teammates he's ever had.
Ever. That was just like, wow. He's excited for the season. That's a lot of the guys, you could feel the excitement oozing off of them, and just oh yeah, go ahead, Sean.
And even with him too, real quick, I just want to touch on, people are talking about people have very tempered expectations with what Marvin Bagley can be. But if you listen to what he even was saying today, his focus isn't on just coming in and pitching in and playing a role. His focus is on how he can be great, how he can get better every day. Like, this is a guy that before we were like, I don't know, he doesn't really seem too invested or too bought in. Now, completely different conversation. His drive is there.
Have you heard those quotes in Sacramento? I don't think I've heard Marvin on a consistent basis say, I'm just going to keep working. You know, these are great. I have such great teammates, like talking about his work ethic with Detroit. Boom. 1 year under really half a season in an off season. It's like that light bulb is just boom. Like now I understand, you know, hey, listen, this is a great team. I know where I need to fit in. And again, it goes back to that self-awareness that gets preached from Troy to the bottom. So the best thing you could have for any team is for guys to be self-aware. And it seems like every player on the Pistons right now understand what they need to do and how to do it. So it's great.
Yeah. I had the privilege of being able to talk with DJ Baker, Motor City Cruise head coach. Yeah. And the reason why I call that even more so of a privilege than just, hey, I got to go there and kind of do a duty or a job is because of how connected the Pistons are to their G League franchise and the role that plays, you know, and it was important. It was pretty cool to kind of ask them a couple questions and just see where their mindset is. And the culture of this team is at the top of everything that they do. The culture. Their standard and their culture is key. And Rob Murphy and DJ Baker both state that Troy Weaver is very, very adamant about this. And Coach Casey, obviously, with the role that he plays from not just the development, but just staying in contact with his guys from the standpoint of family. Like Jalen Duren say, oh, yeah, me and Coach, no, we ain't talked about my roles. So like, you and Coach haven't talked? No, me and Coach talk. But every time we talk is about my family. He always checks in and asks me about how me and my family are doing. That was just like, wow. Like you would think that this coach who some fans are saying he could potentially be on a hot seat or they don't like what he's doing, you would think he would be like, oh, let me get to the X's and O's of it. And it was more or less like, no, this is about the culture of it all. And that's what I got from talking with DJ Baker. That's what I get every time I hear these guys speak. And you hear how excited they are about family. And I think it helps when you have good, high IQ young players. And that was the point I was trying to make with Jayden Ivy, reminding me of Sadiq Bey. They come from, you know, heavily coached backgrounds. And I believe that helps when you have a young team coming together to play. It makes it a lot easier because their eyesight, their focus is not just on the goal ahead, but the guys to the left and to the right of them.
And it's a group of guys that all genuinely want to see each other succeed and thrive.
Exactly.
And that's crucial to have, especially when, being realistic, we're heading into a camp and we're heading into, you know, a stretch of a few weeks here where there's going to be some legitimate competition, you know, not just for minutes and spots in the rotation, but starting spots, figuring out who's going to be like, I think there's only right now 2 guys I would say that are locked in the starting lineup, or really just 3 guys. I would say Cade's going to be in there. I think we can all say that. I think we can all say Isaiah Stewart's probably going to be the starting center day one, you know, with Nerlens Noel, with his health, like him kind of talking about him getting ramped back up. I don't think there's anyone competing with him for that spot. And Sadiq's starting. Like, there's just no other way around it, right?
Ooh, you not push button for Jayden Ivy?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, one of the things Dwayne Casey said today as well was how they're going to put the players out there that are going to give them the best chance to win. They're talking about how they're going to give minutes regardless of age. We're going to give minutes to the people that are producing, the people that are, and that's the thing to take away is not like, it doesn't just mean that this team is competing on a night to night basis as far as like, we're trying to win games. No, like Buddy Boeheim's not going to just get minutes at some point this season just to test him out. He's going to get minutes if he earns it. Jalen Duren is going to get minutes if he earns it. So any of this narrative and any of people going like, oh, well, why aren't the young guys getting minutes? Well, the answer is going to be this year because they're not producing. And that's the shift in mentality this year. I think it's important to bring up. And that's why.
It used to be it's because they're just not producing. Like when we had no talent. Now it could just be because the team is too good. The guys ahead of them are just producing more.
Yep.
And that's the trait that I'm hoping to see out of this team this year, that if Duren and Ivy are blocked, it's because Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes and some of these other guys have just taken some magnanimous leaps forward. And they talked about that internal growth. That's what they're going to depend on. They said, in our rebuild, Weaver said this, it depends on our internal growth and guys taking the next step forward.
Now, again, I expect Ivy to start day one. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a betting man, I think he's going to start day one.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue, I think the whole mentality and I think everything they've said is they're going to have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the correct way to approach it too. Like would I prefer, Jayden Ivy to start? Yeah, you want to rip the Band-Aid off. You want him to Cade to play together right away and figure it out. But overall, that's what you want to hear from Dwayne. I mean, let's be honest. I get people's initial reaction would be, no, why can't you play, everybody? This is a season of, because I always say it's a season of figuring out what you have, but you can still do that by making these guys. You have to play well, period. And like, what else would you guys want to happen at this point, guys? Understand that we talk about culture. Culture is important. How do you build culture? By setting standards like Dwayne and Troy have been doing. So I love it, man. I mean, I have no problem with what Dwayne said. And listen, I love how you said, Brandon, your Killian Hayes light bulb went off, because that's a good point. Like, this is a guy, and listen, we're not targeting Killian, but that's the reality. Like Killian, I mean, things could go from 100 or 0 to 100 from a standpoint of like a guy's role at the beginning of the season might not be the same role at the end of the season. And I'm not just talking Killian, I'm talking about for everybody. So I love it, man. Build a culture where guys are constantly competing, not in a negative way or a negative light, because you see the family atmosphere they have, but competition. Competition breeds it, man.
Does anybody want to see Killian just settle into a bench role or be there because Jayden Ivy has proven to be a superstar?
Right.
There you go.
Or at least a star. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the notion. You're like, yo, Killian's out here now. He's actually looking like that 10, 7, and 5 guy or whatever we're looking for. It's just, or he could, if he got more time, get 15 points. But in the same time, Jayden Ivy is just that much better. That's the scenario. That's what we want to see. All these guys taking strides forward, and the rookies proving that they were worth their draft compensation, their draft selection.
Sure. And I think one last takeaway that we can have from from Media Day, from the focus that and from the statements that have been made, and both from the actions and from the press conference today, all of this, should we go for Victor talk? We can put that to bed. That ain't happening, y'all. There's just no reality where this franchise, the only way I see us shifting any focus at all this year towards going for Victor Wembanyama is if both Cade and Ivy somehow got injured on the same play and are both out for the season.
Bro, I got wood desks all around me, so I'm knocking on all of it.
100%. But like, ultimately, the point being, there's just not a world.
Making sure they're good.
There's just not a world where the Pistons are going for the number 1 pick this year. It's just not happening.
Not by choice.
No.
How does Cade feel? You know what I mean? Hey, Cade, we want Victor really bad. Wait, I thought I was a connected leader. Y'all believe in me? Imagine that. Jayden Ivy saying, like, I'm trying to win this year. Like, that's my mindset. Hey, no, guys, we believe we need Victor so much more.
And I listen, I get the fascination with Victor. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to disagree with anybody there, but the reality is, guys, if you aren't in a position to get Victor, by default, a byproduct of that would mean what? Your players got better. And you know what you have. You may be fine with the players you have right now, but I get it. People always want to look for more and more talent. But even Troy said, like, the point you guys made earlier about listening. If people would listen to what Troy's been telling you guys, I'm not talking about you guys, I'm talking about fans in general, you would already have known that they're kind of trying to scale back on going and just consistently grabbing first round talent. It's okay to get first round talent, but to be in the top 10 for 5-6 years, this ain't Philly. You're not busting on these picks. You want to have guys you can keep around. And if you're doing that, they don't have room to bring in. I mean, listen, if you bring in Victor, will I complain? No. But the reality is, if you're not in a position to get them, that means players are getting better and you're going to be just fine.
And part of why you made the trade to go get Bojan Bogdanovic and you give up guys that they liked, like Saban Lee and Kelly Olynyk, who they even said were 2 guys they didn't want to give up.
Proven player.
Part of why they did it was because they needed to get older. And they talk about how this team's talented. They're young, but they're talented. And so with that, there will be growing pains. There will be things they anticipate, but at the same time, there will be standards and there will be growth. And so with that, I think, now that we're heading into preseason, I think it's going to be about looking at the competitions that will be throughout camp for, for roles, for starting spots, And I think those are going to be the conversations we're going to be having looking forward. So be sure that you're looking on What We're Pistons for all that coverage there for as far as video content, but also as far as, all the articles that we're going to be writing, you're going to want to be on woodwardsports.com as well. So be sure that you're checking out that. But guys, media day today was not just for the Pistons, but it was for the vast majority of the NBA as well. One thing I want to touch on real quick, a guy that we talked about a lot at the beginning of this summer before the NBA draft was DeAndre Ayton. And specifically, there were a lot of things today that happened at Phoenix Suns Media Day that weren't the most comfortable because it was, obviously the Robert Sarver situation was looming over them. There's a lot of things happening with the Phoenix Suns, right? But a lot of the questions today were, how was DeAndre Ayton going to feel? How was he going to be after all the crap he went through this summer? And we got our answer.
I was about to say, you got that clip, man?
Oh, of course.
Hold up.
This just speaks
But
for
before you play it, look at, and I know this is like mid pause right now, but look at his posture when he's talking. By the way, because you could tell he's chilling.
Bro,
He's like, listen, I'm here. They match.
Yeah.
Thank you, NBA, for restricted free agency. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, he's like, I just got my bag.
Douchebags.
Yeah. Yeah. But this just speaks for itself.
He's like,
congratulations on obviously getting the deal. Just maybe your thoughts now that you got that. Maybe what was your initial reaction once the Suns matched the Pacers off?
I was happy. It was all done, I guess.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Congratulations.
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that is not a guy that is thrilled with being a Phoenix Sun.
He's pissed, and I don't blame him because, guys, you have to think about it. There's two ways to look at it: from DeAndre's perspective and in a business perspective, like the Phoenix Suns have looked at it, and that's, we don't want to pay you what you want, so go out, let's go see who will pay you, and we'll just match that. And from a player's perspective, that's, you guys are what a terrible thing to do. But from a business perspective, it's a good move by the Suns. But I get why DeAndre would be upset, because it's like, if you were going to pay me all along, we should have had an extension already done. Yeah. But again, so I'm not throwing shade at DeAndre. I think he's rightfully so upset, but this ain't the time to be upset, my man. I mean, season starts in a couple weeks.
Well, here's the thing. It's a lingering effect of the ultimate thing that's looming on the Phoenix Suns right now, and it's Robert Sarver. Even though he's selling the team, this is the ramifications of him being the owner, because one of the things, even though this wasn't in the report, this isn't one of the reasons why he's selling the team. Robert Sarver was a cheap ass. Like, that's just who he was throughout his entire time owning the team. And like, there were quite literally times where role players sat down with him, were like, hey, this is what I think I'm worth. This is why I think I should be back on the team. This is what I think I contribute. And he was like, great. I'm just not going to pay you though, because I don't have to. And that's just who Robert Sarver is. So Robert Sarver played all these games with DeAndre Ayton throughout this offseason. He didn't give him the contract after the finals run, when quite frankly, he should have. It loomed. It costed them in that game 7 against Dallas. And now it's going to possibly loom even more this season. And now you even have Jay Crowder asking for a trade. So he's gone too. So listen, man, there's just a lot of things about this Suns team where it's like red flags on red flags on red flags.
And I think the thing that makes me question everything too is, and I get what you're saying, because I agree Sarver he's suspect. But on top of that, the Suns, they extended Mike Kell for 4 years for 90. They're trying to extend Cameron Johnson, who probably will get, somewhere in that ballpark. You already have Devin Booker on a max deal, like max deal.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you pay your supposedly franchise player in DeAndre? And there must have been question marks, not from a top, a front office, maybe an ownership, maybe from Robert Sarver, about like just being skeptical about DeAndre and maybe his mentality, because we talked about the reports that came out. I don't know how true these are, but just his work ethic off the court. or on the court rather, in the off season. So for me, it's like if you're extending all of these guys, it has to be something with DeAndre specifically, because it's not like they haven't been afraid to give out contracts, but they are trying to trade Jay Crowder. So I mean, who knows at this point? Probably because of the Cam Johnson extension that's probably going to get done soon.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ultimately, like, they have a lot of financial decisions to make, and
Right.
that's definitely something. But I just think at the same time, I don't know about y'all. I don't know if I've ever seen a championship team, at the end of the season with this type of beginning, with this type of media day, with this type of off-season stuff that's looming. Like, I feel like this is just a survival year for them.
Yeah, Chris Paul, the quote by Chris Paul too, like and I don't know the specific, statement of him, but just seeing the quote he said, it's probably a part of his quote, but I didn't learn anything from the Dallas Mavericks series. It's like, so you lost by 40 in the game set. I mean, what did you learn, Chris? Like there's a lot of problems going on in Phoenix right now. And I already see the Pistons fans, Devin Booker to Detroit. And listen, I love Devin Booker. He's my favorite player in the NBA. I have a jersey hanging up in my room right now, but come on. And this is why you
say Devin Booker.
You smell that? It's that season. It's the hopium. You know what I mean? Like we're now that Troy's been making these moves. Man, I swear. It even will be your boy who's going to suggest it. It could be your closest friend. But yeah, listen, Phoenix is a dumpster fire. I right now on paper, like
save him, Sean.
Shave him.
Go and get your city man out of that guy. Out of Phoenix Suns, bro. Go. Aren't y'all from Grand Rapids?
Oh, yeah, man. My fellow. Yeah, he and I go way back from all of our times around the Grand Rapids together, of course.
Go save him. He's calling out to you. He's wearing like 04 Pistons gear. Come on, man. He's riding around in cars talking about, the Woodward Dream Cruise. He's just practically crying and dying to be a Detroit Piston.
What would that even look like? Like Jayden Ivy at the 1, Devin at the 2, and Cade at the 3 with 20 pounds bulking. Like, what are we talking here?
I mean, listen, this is that's a whole other rabbit hole. That's a whole other conversation for a whole other day.
It's too much to digest this early in the season.
It's media day. These guys haven't even suited up yet.
I know, and here comes
we're going down like free agency in like 2027.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't been seeing too many of those trade machines. I haven't been seeing too many of those trade machines in the offseason. I mean, I saw one and I'm not gonna name names, but for Russell Westbrook, and it almost made me puke. But on top of that,
bro, there's some dog shit trade machines.
Terrible.
Just in the Pistons. Like
it's terrible.
It's people that are trying to like have a voice, and I'm just like,
it's terrible. What? I can't wait for the season, boys, because that means get ready for the trade machines.
I'm just ready for all the overreactions from the bad losses. Me too. Those are my favorite, especially from people that call themselves pundits. It's great. But anyway, another thing as well that I noticed today from Media Day, Zion Williamson.
Talk about, I mean,
look at this physical transformation. This was Zion at Media Day last year.
You think?
And this was Zion at Media Day this year.
His face. Look at his face.
Look at his face, dude.
Slim down, man.
So slim. You can see the dimples in the actual
definition.
Like structure of his face.
Yeah.
The guy is at an incredible shape. He looks like a completely different person. He is ready to go, man. And all I'm saying, we could be in. I'm tempted to say we could be in for an MVP candidate caliber season from Zion. I'm serious, man.
I mean, a guy who puts up like 26 per game on like 60% shooting percentage, and he's. I mean, if he plays an whole season, Sean, I don't think you're crazy. They just extended CJ too. I mean, New Orleans. They got some dudes over there. They really do. I mean, New Orleans, if you're a New Orleans Pelicans fan, I mean, you're excited. And Zion the man looks shredded. And that's what you want. You want him to avoid these little injuries, these nagging injuries, especially with his feet, because his weight doesn't help that. And listen, I mean, the guy looks like he's been in the gym working. So Shout out to Zion, man. I mean, he's. I don't think the league's ready for Zion this year. I really don't.
KoolAid, how scared of you is Zion? How scared are you of Zion?
Hey, KoolAid. Hey, KoolAid. If Zion slaps your girl's butt, what do you do, man? What do you do? Slaps your girl's ass. What do you do?
Get Isaiah Stewart. Hey, Beef still.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Beef. Hey, Isaiah Stewart, come on, man. Help me out.
Man, it's
Yo,
getting
no,
to a
If
certain
Isaiah
point
Stewart
where,
does
like,
it, we got some problems. I don't know what to do.
I'm like, I'd almost thank him. Like, he's like just physically terrifying. Oh my gosh.
Sean thanks him. I mean, you got to call Duren. You got to call Duren, man. Ben Wallace. You got to call somebody.
Oh
Man,
my
you need
gosh.
help.
But yeah,
Oh
no,
my
man.
God.
But he looks like he's ready to do something special. Another thing I just saw is that apparently, according to LaMelo Ball from Media Today, he's been in contact with Miles Bridges, and according to him on the record, is hopeful that he will return to the team. Now, other people that are a part of the organization, like I believe the coach and like other members of the organization, declined to comment on Miles Bridges,
Yeah,
calling the
yeah.
situation too personal.
Yeah.
But guys, I don't know about you all, but I am not confident at all in what's happening in Charlotte right now. From the weird coaching hiring situation they had, bringing back Steve Clifford, to like just everything I was like, if you were to like ask me to grade, it's like I was a fan of none of it. It was insane.
No, and I don't want to. I hate throwing strays at Mark Jackson because I love Mark Jackson, but they fired their Mark Jackson and hired another Mark Jackson. And what I mean by that is almost like a bridge head coach, like Steve Clifford. No, I mean, listen, where is he leading you to? I'm curious. I really am. And on top of that, the culture. Talk about culture. What the Pistons are building. I'm kind of taking a shot at the Hornets right now.
Culture?
What culture? And Miles Bridges. Oh, he'll be playing ball all right. Won't be anywhere near an NBA arena, I'll tell you that. It'll be we'll see what happens with that, but it'll probably be behind bars. I mean, listen, the guy, what he did is unexcusable. And the fact that if he returns to the Hornets this year and gets off scot-free and is able to play NBA games, like that's inexcusable, man. I mean, he's got to face some sort of legal action for what he did. Like there's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
But listen, as LaMelo, clearly you're a teammate of his, a friend, but even before this situation. So I'm not mad at LaMelo for the contact with him, but yeah, man, that Miles. They got a lot going on in Charlotte. They really. And
obviously, he's gonna want his guy to come back. That's
right.
They had plans of building a future together, but at the same time, I mean, there's consequences to your actions, and
always.
With a guy like Miles Bridges, he definitely won't be there on opening night. It's hard to say at this point if he'll even be back in the league at all this season, let alone ever again. So
I don't think he should be back at the very least, not this season. To see him on a court again this year with what
that
went
quickly.
Down, I'm not trying to condone anything. We can't sit here on one hand and we talk about how we feel with the Sarver case, and then we condone or we let something pass on this end or to any level. I can't do that personally. It's something that, first and foremost, get her help, get him help, the correct help that he needs, and make sure that if they're doing anything moving forward together, they're going to do it correctly.
Right.
Before anybody's talking about, let's get him back for the NBA, let's get that. Is anyone checking in on the fact that they had a family? You know what I mean? Like, that those are the things that matter, and that's why I love what this front office here with the Pistons are talking about, because it is about the well-being of their players all the way around and making sure that it's the right players that fit in with their team and their culture here. Whatever Charlotte is doing, they just don't care, man. They don't care about the culture.
Well, and even then, this is a guy that, Jeff, I remember we made a video like a week before this all went down, saying, should the Pistons go for Miles Bridges in free agency? And that was a legitimate conversation and something that fans were excited about.
Sean,
know?
what I say too in that video, I said, I'm like, I'm just worried about what he's doing off the court. And I didn't know about I'm not saying I knew this would happen, but that was my biggest concern is his focus off the court because we know what he was doing. Listen, you could be, and I'm never going to give a player flack for trying to become a rapper. That's fine. I mean, Marvin Bagley, for God's sake. Exactly. It's being vocal. It's almost like what comes first? Like, is it basketball or is it the things that come with playing basketball? And I think for Miles Bridges, it was those extra things. And on top of that, the guy can't, decision making. That's number one. Like his whole, in the whole Ime Udoka thing, and I'm not trying to bring this up as a whole wormhole, but if you're going to
we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second.
If you're going to bring him up if you're going to suspend him for an entire season for whatever happened, and I know there's a lot of things that aren't being reported right now, what does Miles Bridges look like? Like, there's no reason this man needs to play basketball this year because it's not like, and I don't know the details, but I don't think Ime Udoka hurt anybody physically. That's the thing that physically hurt them.
To go on ahead and take any suspense out and just state, hey, you're taking off the season while we continue to investigate and we continue to let your legal matter play itself out. Like,
well, this is why the NBA hasn't even, and that's the other thing, the NBA hasn't even gotten involved yet. Like, they are quite literally just like letting the legal process, play out. And that's the thing is like before Miles Bridges even gets signed, the league would have to do their investigation and they would have to have their ruling. But the reason why they haven't is because he has a lot bigger fish to fry, and they might not even have to do anything. He might be in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just where it is. So, ultimately, like, obviously, if Charlotte would have the opportunity to bring him back, obviously, I think they would take it. I don't think it's going to happen anytime this year. I think he's at least going to be gone from the game this year. I think a lot of it's going to be dealing with legal stuff. Well, whether or not he'll have to spend any time in jail or do any significant things there. We'll see. Obviously you don't really want to get into like the personal stuff. Cause like you said, there's like, it does affect a family. It does affect his children. Those are the real victims here. But at the same time, it's like, it's just the road for recovery for Miles Bridges is going to be a very long one. So I wouldn't be counting on him being in a Charlotte Hornets uniform or an NBA uniform for that matter anytime soon.
Yep. And I'm glad that you all, have also highlighted the fact that the road to recovery for Miles Bridges has nothing to do with the basketball. I dislike that. Oh, let's rehab him. Oh, he's going to make his way back to a team and he's on a team. Look at him. He's back. What does that have to do with his character and what he did? What does that have to do with the people that he hurt? That's ultimately what matters. Is he getting better from that standpoint? Because like he says in some of his rap videos and all this other stuff in his songs, there are people that depend on him. That is truthful. There are people that he has been taking care of, whether he's been doing it as responsibly or not, but his family and such, when that type of money comes into your life, you start to care for those around you to certain degrees.
How about all the money he could have gotten this summer? How about all the money that with his actions and with his decisions went out the table, went off of his children's, like that's money that could have gone to his children's children.
And I think too, this is for a lot of athletes too that support others. I think it's hard for those players and those people and those men to have guys that say no, or family members that say like this is what needs to happen. Like Amani Bates, for example. Like I'm not saying he's now different situations. Obviously, Miles Bridges is in the NBA and he's getting paid millions of dollars, but it's hard to tell a guy like, well, I don't think that's a great idea when you're being, taken care of. Like it's harder. You're like, okay, this is what's got you here, so I'm not going to really butt in. It's too much. Yes, man. I think that's what Miles Bridges has going on. I mean, you can't. It's hard because you need one of those guys or girls to be like, listen, whatever you're doing, it's stupid. I mean, you're going to ruin your whole career. But in the same light, I mean, these people understand that he's probably the breadwinner of the entire family. So what do you say to a guy like that who's bringing in millions to you? I mean, it's a tough situation.
He's the breadwinner of his extended family. Like that's how much money these guys are making, so at the end of the day, I mean, listen, we'll see how that one develops, but I just thought that was something interesting to bring up. Right. I did want to close and did talk like, you touched on it. I did want to briefly bring up the Ime Udoka situation because that's something that developed and happened after this last episode of the pod. Don't really want to get into like what he did, because as of right now, all that we know was that he had some form of consensual relationship with a Celtics staffer. However, based on things that Matt Barnes has said, based on, a lot of things that journalists and reporters have been alluding to, and even quite frankly, based on things that I've heard and rumblings that I've been hearing, this is merely just a decibel of it. It sounds like there's a lot more to this situation than that. I mean, because you have to remember, they brought in a law firm to conduct an investigation. And based on that investigation, suspended him for an entire year and are not even committed on if he will be back on the team after that suspension. So I have a feeling personally, guys, that once the news comes out, that once we figure out what it is, he will not be the coach of the Boston Celtics moving forward.
That's the same issue I have with this whole situation is fire him. Like, you're wasting his time. And not on top of that too, it's embarrassing, honestly. And this is my theory, and I'm just going to say it because I don't care. I have no relationship to anybody with the Celtics. He had to have had in a relationship with somebody that I think the report was it was a woman that was married. It had to be in the front office, because there's no reason why this story gets leaked, almost intentionally. Because it like Stephen A said, I mean, he spoke on this and he was speaking facts, like talking around the league, like not even just the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, different organizations. This happens pretty much with every single franchise. I mean, I listen, I'm not going to speak on the Pistons, but this happens a lot. And I think for Ime Udoka, he had to have done something.
And again, I think it is more than that one relationship.
Irreparable. It has to be, because for this to be public right before the season, like usually these things are handled more in-house. Like these things don't really get out, but it had to have been something so bad, or messing with somebody that has power and has the ability to leak this information to try and tarnish your career. It's one of those things. But for me, I just don't get it. Fire him. If you don't want him a part of the organization, you don't have to. We'll just wait and see. What are you going to wait and see? He's already admitted it was a mistake. He's willing to accept the punishment. He's willing to stay. They gave him a chance to resign. He didn't take it. He wants to stay. He's committed to the franchise. So why isn't there an indication on his future? That's what doesn't make sense to me. If you don't want him, fire him. Like, what is he going to prove to you on his couch for the whole season?
I think to me, and KoolAid, I'll throw it to your way after this. I think this is a team that I think they understand that the writing's on the wall. I think deep down they know that that the likelihood of them being able to bring back Ime Udoka is not very high. However, I think that the reason why they haven't definitively made the decision yet is because I think they're trying to hold out for any hope that they could repair this and bring it back in some form, because I think it's just hard. Listen, even with everything that happened, and like, again, we will learn more, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. We do not know, I don't think we even know a fraction of what happened. So, I think as things go on, I think this is a situation now that, has piqued the interest of a lot of reporters. So, listen, there's no world Woj doesn't have something about this within a week, right? There's no world that Shams doesn't have something about this within like 48 hours. So, like the reality of it is like, we're going to figure it out. And I think, again, like, I think at that point, the court of public opinion will ultimately tell what's going to happen. But KoolAid, I mean, I'm sure your thoughts are similar, man, but it's like, this is someone that, Ime Udoka was the second candidate behind Dwayne Casey to come be in Detroit. This is someone that, I thought very highly of as a coach and as a leader and as someone that could galvanize his guys. And he was someone that was big to what they did this last season. So just from a basketball standpoint, obviously this is a big blow, but what are your thoughts on this whole situation as a whole?
As you brought up the two coaches that were being considered for the job, it brings to something else to light here as it relates to Coach Casey. Looking at it right now, was he the correct hire? Especially when we're talking about culture and we're talking about the mentorship of these young players becoming well-groomed, good men. You know what I mean? Like good basketball players. They talked about them being good citizens. Coach Casey went into detail about, we're trying to teach these guys to be good men. Like even make your bed. Put your clothes in the laundry basket or in your drawer. Like he talked about things like that last year at Media Day. So to know that we got a guy who cares about the character of things, and that Casey and Udoka were at one point in time in the running for the coach here, it's like when you bring it up, it's like, yeah, I remember that, but I totally forgot that, as being a really, really big subplot or backstory to this whole thing going on now. As Pistons fans, we should be clued in a little bit more. So the intrinsic values of a guy like Coach Casey and his staff are being talked about, then we might understand what Troy Weaver is doing. You talk about being an eye for talent. It's like Troy must be able to see everything, to be able
and
to.
Obviously, Troy wasn't there to hire Coach Casey, but I mean, Ed Stefanski,
That's true.
Yeah, but like Ed Stefanski is definitely someone that, has that eye. And, ultimately, they realized having that experience was something that was important. But also, again, like we talk about all the time, the importance of bringing in the right people. And, obviously, like I don't want to make any judgments on Ime Udoka as a person, because we don't know yet the full context of the story. We don't know the full, but I think there's one thing that's fair to say, and it's just disappointing.
Yep.
And, I think from I think, and I don't want to speak too much on the situation yet, because I do think there's just a lot more we're going to learn. And I think at that point we can have more of a conversation.
We may learn more, but I do appreciate the way that Casey presents himself and
Absolutely.
the team of family that he runs on, to the point that we would never be in a situation like that unless it was just something completely hidden, something completely not him. Supposedly with Udoka, it's not like these things were hidden. It's just you messed with the wrong person this time, type of thing. And I like with what you're saying, Sean, to your credit, we'll wait until everything comes out. But I'm glad that the Pistons are being kind of shepherded by an individual who's, they take character to and family to really, really, really mean something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. And speaking of family, KoolAid, you're my family, man. This is this trio is a family, man. And like, I'm just thankful for you, and, for coming on the show, and, for all the work that, you're putting in. And, listen, man, we're going to be putting out a lot of content this season. And this is our first full year covering the Pistons together, the three of us. And so, KoolAid, even though you're technically a guest, this is not a network you're a guest on by any means. You're super fundamental in this channel. And I'm just super grateful for you, man.
I appreciate you, Sean. I appreciate you, Jeff. It's always dope to make content with you all. We've made some bangers, go back and look at the
yes, sir.
Show, draft lottery coverage, as well as the draft show. And I know Adam and Jeff held down the post-draft lottery coverage as well. Definitely just go back, look at those shows. And I'm going to be going back and clipping some stuff from Sean on the morning, on some of the other shows as well. Morning Woodward. I think you're on Big D Energy a couple times as well. But it's just awesome to see just how far we've come over the last, I don't know what year, as we've continued to come together as a team. Have our goal set before us, and let's just crush this season, man. I know that we will.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you guys, personally.
Appreciate you, man. I'm proud of what we're doing.
Yeah, I am too, man. And this is, again, this is From Half Court, where, we talk all things NBA, but obviously it starts with the Pistons here. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the podcast, be sure you're subscribed to the channel and sharing with your friends as well, because From Half Court is your one-stop place for all things NBA. Pistons officially announced the Bojan Bogdanović trade. Let's go. Let's go, baby. It finally happened.
People were waiting to see what the actual trade was. People were waiting to see when it was announced if anything else was going to be attached. The only thing I'm seeing that I didn't see before is just cash considerations.
Yep. So they sent some money. But with that, be sure you're following my guy at Detroit KoolAid for more of those updates and any Pistons news. Be sure you're following my guy Jeff Iafrady at Jeff Iafrady on Twitter, and catching my boy Monday through Friday on that Morning Woodward show with Adam. And also, if you're feeling charitable, go follow your boy at Sean Half Court and see everything I got going on as well. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of writing and content as well this season. We are ready for the grind because it's that time of year, baby. We're getting locked in. But with that, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.